Unresolved Problem segment tonight, the collapse of the airline industry in the USA. Record delays, lost luggage, passengers stranded on runways for hours, and entire companies like Northwest and JetBlue melting down, all a matter of fact. Last month, Dave Olala was stuck on a Comair flight, that's Delta, for about 4 hours. He documented the chaos with a camera.
There's an infant on this plane.
I understand.
This is an unsafe environment.
I am trying.
At some point, protocol is putting people at risk. If this was your family on this plane, would you do something different?
No. I would actually take everybody off.
So why can't we do that?
They closed the ramp.
There's activity there. There's people there.
I can't let you guys just go.
Right, but you need to communicate the severity of the situation.
All right, joining us now from Detroit is Mr. Olala, who was talking to the pilot of the Comair plane right there. And from San Francisco, Kate Hanni, founder of the Coalition for Airline Passengers. So you're trying to get home from New York City to Michigan. And how long were you on the runway there?
We were about just under 4 hours.
All right, and what was the delay? Why were you sitting on the runway for 4 hours?
Well, it wasn't clear, but essentially what ended up being communicated to us is that we missed our slot, and so we weren't going to be moving.
So there wasn't any weather delay, or there wasn't anything like that?
Not for the first 2.5 hours, and then about 2.5 hours into our wait on the tarmac, some weather did come through JFK.
All right, now did the pilot go on or any of the flight attendants go on and tell you guys why you were waiting so long and what was going on?
We were told more than 10 times that we would be leaving in 5 to 10 minutes.
Now, once you reached hour 3, were the passengers in rebellion? What was going on with the other people?
Well, I think rebellion was not too far off, but people were certainly agitated, extremely uncomfortable. They had brought a young man off of the plane who had vomited and passed out and then shut the door on us again. People were on the phone to the FAA. People were reaching out any way they knew how to figure out how to get out of that situation.
Finally, did you take off? What happened?
No, we didn't move 1 inch, Mr. O'Reilly. We stayed on the tarmac right where we entered the plane. Essentially, it wasn't until the police came to escort us off that we got out of that unhealthy situation. So the police had to get you off the plane, and then I understand that you were questioned by the police. Somebody complained about you? That's correct. So I was recording the pilot when I was asking the questions, and the pilot suggested that if I continued to ask questions and videotape, that the police would be asked to come out, and I thought that that was a good idea and suggested that he call the police. Okay, is that why the police came out? Because you were recording the guy? I'm not clear why the police came out, other than you encouraged him to call the police so you could get off the plane. Okay. Exactly. Now, Ms. Hanni, we've had you on before, and you were in Washington, I guess, last week, trying to get Congress to protect Americans from the abuses, and I do believe they are, that Dave went through. You making any progress there?
Well, you know, actually the legislation, we do have legislation language on the Senate and the House side. It's weak, it's watered down. It does not include deplanement on either side yet. And the reason I keep going back to Washington is that there are certain members of Congress that have made promises to include this legislation, but then it doesn't show up in the language. All right, well, the airline lobby is very powerful, as you know. I mean, the aviation industry doesn't want this language. They don't want to be sanctioned and fined if people are sitting on the runway for 4 hours. Right, they don't want to do anything for you when you're in the plane either. They don't feed you. Do you want to name any names that have impeded you in trying to get a fair deal for American airline passengers? Well, here are the names. Chairman Oberstar of the House Transportation Committee made a statement, a written statement and an oral statement when I testified about our event being stuck 9.5 hours in a plane. He said, if the airlines don't fix this, I will. All right. And that hasn't happened, and the legislation doesn't reflect that they're fixing the problem. They have asked for an emergency plan, and they've asked the airlines to provide plans, which I have read, and there's no deplanement in those plans. So you want a certain amount of time that people can get off the plane or have to get off the plane rather than being held hostage. And we will remind everybody that Ms. Hanni was on a plane for 9 hours, right? 9 hours? Yeah, 9 hours. And on the Senate side, I would say Senator Lott and Senator Rockefeller are the two senators that are unconvinced, that need to be convinced that this language is important. That's why it got watered down.
All right, well, we can
side.
absolutely call Senator Lott and Senator Rockefeller today and encourage them, because look, I mean, there isn't any two sides to the story here. That
No,
if you're an airline passenger and you're on, I'd say, 2 hours, that's it. And if you can't get that plane off the ground after 2 hours, you got to get those people off. I mean, particularly because there's no food on the plane.
That's right, and they refuse to, when you're tarmacked, when you're being tarmacked, they refuse to serve any food or water, and in many cases, I know of a teenager that was forced to sit in his seat and wet his pants, because if you're in a taxi-out situation, they want you sitting in your seat with the seatbelt on, locked in the upright position.
All right, real quick, Dave, were you allowed to go to the head while you were for 4 hours? They let you go in?
I didn't make my way back. All sorts of protocol was being broken. They had the door open and people were taking turns getting gulps of fresh air. And the cockpit door was open as well. That's how I had access to the pilot.
All right. Thanks you both for coming on. Something will be done. Plenty more ahead as a Factor moves.